Hey, 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 we're back, we're black, we're brown. Ambition, 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 ambition. Hey, Mandra.
Hi, gorgeous.
How are you with your beautiful hair today?
Well, I'm hanging in there. You know I am, but the sun is shining, and we survived the biblical floods on the East Coast on Friday.
That was crazy.
It was biblical, and I mean it. Yeah, it was nuts. But shout out to my community, my neighbors. We all rallied together, and one mom stayed at the bus stop so the other moms who were stuck in traffic and couldn't get home for their kids' early pickup dismissal, and one of my neighbors, Lynn, came and watched my baby while I got Rio early from school.
I saw you had to walk. You couldn't even drive.
Yeah. Well, I could have, but I didn't want to it would have been fine going there, but I would have been stuck in so much traffic getting back that I figured, let me just park the car. And I just told myself, it's like 10 city blocks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like a New Yorker, you just like, whatever. And Rio had a ball. He was like, this is fun. There's water features now. There's police fire boats and features. Fire trucks and fire people and all this like commotion. And he told everyone he wanted to hear that we saw lots of flooding and the train station flooded. But it was, neighbors' basements flooded. And we're lucky we're on like a bit of a hill. Okay. But our neighbors at the base of the hill, they got flooded, and my friend's car got flooded at the train station. It's going to be totaled. So, luckily that I know of, no loss of life or injuries near here, but it was bad.
Yeah.
And in my infinite wisdom, I was like, told the babysitter, you can go home. It looks pretty bad out there. And then when the school was like, come get your kid, I was like, oops, just shot myself in the foot. So that's where my neighbor Lynn came in. So How was it in Newark?
It wasn't. So I flew out. I'm actually in Atlanta right now. So when the rain started, I was flying out. Thank God. I don't know if they delayed any flights, but I had a really early flight at 7 a.m. So I remember like being like, what the hell? Because it started raining the night before. And in the morning, I'm like, it's raining kind of hard. So much so that like our Uber, this never happened to me before. We heard a big boom, like he drove through a puddle, and we heard this like big boom, and his tire blew out completely. Oh. Thankfully, he had great control.
In Atlanta?
No, this is in Jersey on the way to the airport.
Oh, I was going to say in Atlanta, you got the pothole posse. That was like a big thing back in the 90s.
And I was like, what? So that never happened to me before. Thankfully, we're all okay. The Uber driver was so nice. I felt so bad for him because his tire was finito. And so another Uber picked us up and took us to the airport. I got to Atlanta, and the weather here is like 80 degrees. And I'm like, wait, I'm so confused. 80 and sunny. I feel like I'm in the Caribbean.
Yeah. But this time of year, it's not incredibly humid. Yeah, you can enjoy that little dry 80.
Yes, it is.
See that?
Yes, I have to say, it's really, I brought jeans, and I'm like, why? Mm-hmm. Literally, it's shorts and tank top weather. I'm so confused. My body's like, I'm confused.
You're probably gonna like get sick now.
I know, for real, because it's just really, really. So I'm out here because I did this conference called A3C. I say A3C, A3C, which it's like this conference focused on finance, tech, and entertainment. And so it was great. Like the networking has been amazing. I forget how people down south are so nice. Everyone is like, like sometimes you go to like a conference and you speak or whatever, and you just feel like the other speakers are not quite as welcoming. But that was not the case here. I've heard that in particular, that Atlanta, the Black professionals are really just open to being like, I'm doing this. How can I help you? And, let's collaborate. That there's this collaborative kind of like energy here. And I can see it full time. Like I'll give you an example. The master investor, Ian, he had a bodyguard. So Ian's like on that Market Mondays with Earn Your Leisure,
Yeah.
And so
we had him on the podcast with them.
Yeah. And so like he had a bodyguard, big guy, muscular, all this. And so I ended up just talking to him, and I was just like, how like, are you a bodyguard for other people? And he named some other rappers. He's like, I'll never want to do that work. He said, because rappers are the biggest punks. He was like, I've had rappers punch people in the face and look at me like, you got him, right? It's like, wait, why?
I like that Key and Peele sketch.
He was like, I would love to be like, do more like of the finance guys, which I think is hilarious that finance guys now have like bodyguards, but whatever. He said, because, they're super chill. You're just more so that no one's going to like steal from you or whatever. And so, but he was telling me, he was like, actually, like I'm an accountant by trade. I mean, this guy is massive, like 6'2", 6'4". I mean, muscles on muscles. Like, and I was like, really? He was like, yeah, I started doing accounting and I really want to get into finance. And he was like, so one of the reasons I made the switch into doing bodyguard work for this industry is because proximity. I want to learn. I just thought that was so awesome, and he was like, Ian's aware.
Clever.
Yeah. And I just love that for him. I was like, okay. So yeah, so it was just.
You've mentioned before that financial like pros influencers now have bodyguards. And I was like, wow, we reached that stage, huh?
Yeah. I don't know. Not me. Because he asked me, did I have one? And I was like, no. No one's run up on me.
I would be but your vibe is different than some.
Yeah.
I can see how Master Investor with his marketing could be a target.
Because me, I'm a Target Marshalls girl. So you're going to see me there and be like, hey, girl, you're going to run up.
You say that a lot. I see why now. Don't take me for ransom. Nobody in my family can afford me. I'm the one with money. Oh, maybe they'll take someone. Oh, no, not baby Lisa. This is where my head is going. They're going to kidnap Lisa. They're going to hold you for ransom. It's going to be all this crypto. Okay.
But honestly, it's just been like, that was really cool. But I wanted to talk about so it was so crazy because, the phones be listening. So when I landed in Atlanta and I'd opened up my Instagram and there was this post saying the Atlanta that nobody wants you to see. And I was like, huh? And it was like this post of a woman who was showing parts of downtown Atlanta where like just a lot of unhoused people, just like areas that were a little seedy looking. And I was like, this is like when I first landed. I didn't think anything of it until I got to, my hotel where I'm staying is in Midtown, like literally directly downtown. And the day I landed, we landed pretty early. And I said, oh, me, I love my walks. I said, let me go for a walk. I can say I've traveled to many different places. I mean, just this year alone, Egypt, Kenya, London, Paris, Amalfi Coast. And I live in Newark. I have not felt unsafe like this in a long time. Downtown. There were so many unhoused people. And it wasn't the unhoused part, but it was the unhoused that were unwell. There were so many aggressive, like either whether
whereabouts.
What'd you say?
Just downtown, like where are we talking?
Yeah.
Give me a landmark.
So, okay, I'm not really good at
Centennial Park, Mercedes Stadium.
Yeah, so by Mercedes Stadium, but also too
Southwest.
by like Peach, was it Peach Street?
Okay, well there's 75 Peach Streets.
I know. I'm just like I'm trying
Yeah.
to think like is it the Candler Hotel, which is like right downtown?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the heart of Atlanta.
I can't even. I'm just like I don't have my bearing, but I mean, but even I walked about 3 miles one way and back. So I got to see like. I mean, certainly there were parts I'm like, oh, okay, this is clearly a part that gets a little nicer.
It's been gentrified. Yeah.
Yes, but I was really shocked. Like I said, unhoused people, I see all the time, but the amount that were, I don't know whether it was, under the influence or there's just mental health, but the sheer amount, Mandy, there was literally streets where the whole street was just people laying. And not just laying like off to the side, but in the middle of the sidewalk. I just was like, wait, what? It seemed like a movie. Like it seemed you could film the zombie apocalypse and be like, you don't have to switch anything. And I'd never seen, there was, so the MARTA, the big 5 points MARTA, that was when it was like the word. There was one side of downtown Atlanta on that train station, and the other side, it looked like an abandoned, like, I can't even describe it. There must have been like 50 or 60 men standing outside of this Walgreens, just kind of like standing, waiting. I don't know and it just was heartbreaking to see. And I honestly was at a loss for words. There were parts where I'm like, this is where it's the smell of urine made me gag, like right outside the MARTA station, where I'm just like, people are just like literally police tapping people to see, are they still here with us? because of the way they were just laid out. I've never seen anything like it. And so I went to, they had this African Caribbean festival. I went there yesterday, which was great fun. It was great. And on the way back, I ordered an Uber, and it was this young woman who I went to high school with, Kiana. I was like, oh my God, Kiana, what are you doing here? You know, she grew up in Jersey, and we just got to talking, and I asked her about it. She said, yeah, it's been getting worse and worse and worse. And then she informed me that, that in August alone, I think I want to say she said August or maybe the July, there were 80,000 evictions, not in the state of Georgia, in Atlanta alone. And wow. I was just like, what's really happening? That it is becoming, it gets becoming too expensive for basic needs. Everything is going up, but income. And so I'm just wondering, like, city to city to city, is this kind of like what's happening? You know what I mean? Like, where people just don't even, like, you can't, we talk about like, oh, I can't afford a house. That's one thing. But literally, I can't afford to have a safe place to lay my head. It seems like that's what's happening now. I've read someplace too that the current president has this like affordability housing crisis, like kind of like task force or something that like, because
Well, the thing is, and you know, I knew you were going to talk about this, and I was coming today to talk about the childcare cliff, because that's where my head's at is like, you know, the incredible cost of childcare and how little we give a fuck about children in this country, and it's so sad. I'm like shaking my grippy socks that I got so I won't slip on my hardwood floors. And in my research over that, I'm like, and you talking about this, these are, I feel like, two issues that have been, one, they were already in existence, right? Pre-pandemic. The unhoused, you know, in Atlanta. I mean, go back to the Olympics, if you recall, like in the 90s when we had the Olympics in Atlanta, it was a city too busy to hate, you know, and they all had this sparkling marketing campaign, and yet they were like shoveling the homeless off the steps of downtown Atlanta, like, get out of here. We don't want this on the brochure. You know, we don't want people like you, Tiffany, visiting Atlanta for the Olympics and being distracted by this riffraff, you know, the mess under the bed, the mess that we shove in the closet. And and Atlanta is victim to the same forces that have pushed out, you know, low to middle income people, even in New York, where I moved to 13 years ago. You get pushed further and further and further away. You're not erasing the problem, but because of rising prices and gentrification, and no social safety nets, you just, you know, shove the problem out. And I think in Atlanta, what's interesting and not interesting, but in New York, there's hidey holes. There's everything is so big and so massive, and there's so many distractions. And you have the subway system where a lot of the unhoused will seek refuge, and you do have shelters, but they're tucked away, and you know, I think they sort of, and they're spread. You know, it's so much area in Atlanta. I think because the relationship most people have with the city is through driving. Like, you don't walk Atlanta like you were walking Atlanta. You don't typically do that. The city is moving toward more of a walking culture. They finally have the what do you call that? That pathway everyone walks on in Atlanta. I can't think of it. Anyway, but so all that to say is it was already a problem, but that and also the lack of childcare, they were both issues before. But during the pandemic, what happened? We finally got our shit together and had some social safety nets put in place. So you had the eviction moratorium, which is one thing that was put in place that until this past summer, a lot of in Atlanta is one of those states, one of those cities where the eviction moratorium expired and they chose not to continue it. And that's where you got that 80,000, you know, number. And then I looked in September, it was 12,000. So it's come down from that peak. But you see how many people were on the cusp, you know? And at the same time, we also right now just fell off of a childcare cliff. Like, all this extra funding that the government provided childcare centers during the pandemic so they could stay open, so they could pay their staff, has also expired. And I know that we averted the government shutdown. And I don't know if it's because it's just not a headline issue, but I can't figure out, did we go over the cliff? I think we did. I don't think it was saved in this 45-day extension of the federal budget. So without these, and I'm not saying that the eviction moratorium, that was never going to solve homelessness. It was bad for landowners, landlords, and homeowners and all that. It wasn't a perfect solution. Neither would injecting an infusion of cash into childcare, because the reality is that it's just so expensive and families can't afford it. So they needed those subsidies, or else they would have to start, as they have been, passing on the cost to families and losing customers that way. Or losing their staff to, like, my son's daycare that he used to go to before I finally got access to universal pre-K. They had several of his teachers that quit in the last few months, and this daycare was known for not having a lot of turnover, which is quite, hard to do. And it was like they were getting higher wages somewhere else, and these were great people that they lost. And it just makes me think of the lack of social safety nets, and call me a bleeding heart liberal all you want, but we can't not care about the most vulnerable children, the chronically mentally ill, of course,
we're at
the elderly.
I don't know if you can feel it, but I can feel it. Just from talking casually to friends that were doing fine, who are not doing fine. I'm talking about people who have, college education and degrees and experience and have been out of work for months and months and months. I mean, you see it with your money makers. I feel like we're in this like dangerous tipping point where, the economy is, one of the things I heard on the panel over and over, I was on the financial panel with Ian, master investor, a really big real estate investor. His name is Cedric Nash. Melinda Hightower, I think she is the I forget, she is the managing director, I think, of UBS. That's a big of their multicultural. It's a big
UBS, the bank, the investment bank.
And
UBS.
Then Ross Mack. And so one of the things that came up is that, like, whether they call it or not, that we are headed towards some rough financial times. But I mean, you can see it. I saw someone post, they use an app to order groceries, and they said, let me show you how much my groceries cost in 2020 versus 2023. And it was like, this water I normally get, the same quantity was, $4. Now it's $6.75. Some things, up 100%. And it's like, how, like, I think people don't, my parents are from a country where there is no middle class, and it's just uber wealthy, and the vast majority of people don't have. And it makes for very dangerous living, because I did not feel safe walking downtown 2:00 in the afternoon, Atlanta. I mean, people were just approaching me in ways that were really aggressive and scary. And like I said, I live in Newark, where I'm just like, okay, I've never felt unsafe walking downtown Newark. I'm just like, you keep your eyes about you. You're like, okay. But no, it was a different level of aggression that I had not experienced. So I just am, there is something happening, and there's a shift coming that's not a good one. And I can feel it. I can feel it in the people that I serve, because the advice I used to give before was like manageable. It's like, okay, make a little more here, budget tighter here. And now it's like, that doesn't work unless I don't eat, don't like it. Yeah, it's just really worrying. And I'm not really sure what to do about it.
You mentioned a tipping point, and it makes me think of what's happening in New York very much on our doorstep is the migrant crisis, and the fact that the governor of Texas and legislators there bust migrants from the border to, these coastal cities like New York, DC. And New York has, the picture you were painting of Atlanta is what downtown, Manhattan has been looking like, because all these migrants are here and they don't have anywhere to go. They're overrun with housing. And New York actually has this law that a lot of people didn't realize or didn't know about so much until now, that if you come to New York, you're guaranteed a roof over your head. I forget what the law is called. So a lot of, people, these migrants, when they get here, they're just like shepherded here and used as a political football. But then they're like, oh, New York has this guaranteed housing thing. Let's tell everyone. And so New York's kind of becoming like more of a destination because of this policy, which is proliferating that problem. We already couldn't handle the unhoused before these migrants came. However, and it's become very partisan. Republicans sent them here to make a point that, your lack of immigration policy reform, I know that it's everyone's, but of course, pointing the finger at Democrats, like, what if it's on your doorstep? Would you be as lackadaisical as you have been about this kind of issue? And you know what the reality is? They kind of have a point. Yeah. Sometimes you need it to be on your own goddamn doorstep, in your face, hurting your nostrils, being assaulted by the stench, your life at risk. And then you can just expand the same argument, the same thing out to so many other issues, gun violence, until it's your child. I didn't care about kids, and I'll admit it, until I had my own, which is a damn shame. There's like a lack of empathy, a lack of caring for people that are out of sight, out of mind. And I don't know what the solution for that is, other than, the pandemic took away the distractions that so many of us had to stop from looking at these issues. And when things got back to normal,
they're worse than before.
We went right back to our old habits, our old ways. And if anything, and they're worse than ever.
And I think to myself of like, because I was talking to a couple, like some of my young mentees, and, they felt immune because they were gigging it to success. They were social media, TikTok, and I'm making money. So much of that has dried up, honestly. And now they're like, wait, you mean to tell me that YouTube is not going to save me? So what do I do now? And so that's what's coming up. And they're like, I think I have to get a job. This is what I've heard from a few of my, young mentees. But I'm not even sure, what does that look like? I haven't had one. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. And honestly,
oh God,
I know.
That makes me worried for Generation Z. And what is it after them? I don't know. But thinking that influencer is any different than influencer and entrepreneur. I suppose you could call influencing entrepreneurial. Sure. But unless you got a business case, a business structure, a business plan, you treat it like a business. That'd be like McDonald's, only ever serving French fries. Like, we're a French fry restaurant. Come get your French fries. And ignoring the other ways, the other, things, products and services that people need to diversify their own revenue streams. And I've taken that approach as an influencer myself. I don't think of myself as an influencer first at all. That money, if I get it, and if I have like 2 brand partners this year. And even then you probably don't know, because I don't post that. I don't have relationships where it's like post a reel every day, But anyway, when I take them, and it is, it can be great, but I'm not expecting to have that money replicated. Because first of all, I worked in marketing. I know what happens to those budgets when the economy is bad. Bye.
You're the first one. For real. It's true.
Yep.
No, it's absolutely true. Because, they have to. Like, marketing, I feel like it's like the first thing to cut. Like you said, like, we affiliate stuff is stuff that we kind of were doing on the side. And literally, I was like, because we all got these messages in September saying, or it was August saying, tap, 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 tap. So great that you share our links. You can continue to do so, but we don't have any Monday. I was like, literally within 1 week, like 4 or 5 of the people that we have these relationships with said, and I was like, I told
like the affiliate links, like
that's how I knew.
For every customer, we give you 25 cents or whatever.
So I was like, okay, but I kind of knew that already. So we always planned for like, okay, that's a smaller part of the business, but I wasn't shocked. And so one thing we did learn is that like, because some places we drive a good amount of traffic. So we would reach out and say like, hey, that's fine. But we have this like I was doing the literature challenge 6 months later, like, cause we're doing it twice a year. And I said, we're doing the challenge, but thanks for letting us know. We'll just take you out. They were like, wait. Because sometimes they won't have, it's not that the marketing budget is cut completely. It's just they're using it more wisely. And so they were like, Tiffany, so there's some of them we were like, oh, okay, let's continue the relationship and just monitor. Yeah, one of the things I peeped very early on when I started the Budgetnista was I remember just because nobody wanted to rock with me as a Black woman in the financial space serving Black women, and they made it very clear that's why. I said, I have to create my own, like, almost like create my own farm on my own homestead. Because I don't, I might not be able to go to the supermarket, which is partnering with stores, because everybody else, all my other friends were able to do so. And so I'm so glad I did, I built my own things on the Budgetnista. I built the Literature Academy. We have this podcast. So we were building our own things. And so when those things go up and down, certainly I'm not happy about it, but it's not like that's the whole business, which is like, whew, thank God for that, but, yeah. So when I see influencers, send tens of thousands of people to this company, I'm like, you could also be influencing to your own product and service. Spend that time to create something for yourself. So that way, when they say no, you still have something.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just checking our bank account balance for BA and like,
oh, it's cute over there. I know, right? It's cute, whatever. It's nice for Mandy's like, so go ahead and pull a little something out.
I don't know how I became the CFO of Brown.
I know, really. I don't even be looking.
Probably because I know the password.
I'm like, ooh, because I'm renovating now. I'm like, ooh, I guess I will get that tile. Ow.
Yeah. And the reason I checked is because your point about, they will spend, where they're just more judicious about spending their marketing dollars. And that's where I'm just, and in the light of like you said, this economy and the tightening in the economy, a lot of marketing dollars being gone, and yet Brown Ambition, our biggest year for revenue.
Yep.
Quality.
Yeah.
And we didn't care about money until year 6.
But quality, that's the key.
Quality audience, engaged audience.
And so,
we love you.
I mean, no, but for real though, it's true that that it's not, everybody doesn't get cut. I mean, certainly, but everyone doesn't get cut, because if you bring quality, if you, because
consistency.
People someone's always going to need to market or whatever it is that they're doing. And if there's 1,000 people, they might keep the top 5. And so if you bring excellence to the table, I always tell this to my mentees, if you bring excellence to the table, a space at the table will always be made for you, or better yet, you might have your own table where you're like, oh, we eat good over here either way.
Yeah.
So I love that for us. Cause I'm thinking to myself, when I started the, my mentor, Tiffany.com, like my mentor, first of all, my mentees came out and I'm having dinner with them tonight in Atlanta.
Oh,
we know I'm going to do that at the Brown Boost. But,
you must.
Yes. But,
Atlanta must go hard for the Budgetnista.
Yeah, tickets sold out. But one of the things that I have just learned, like I said, is that what can you create, and how can you bring excellence to the table that typically takes a consistent investment of your time and energy. That's why I love seeing how you created Mandi Money Makers, because you learn firsthand being on the other side, oh, someone could just decide, nope, we don't want you. And you're like, wait. But when it's your thing, it really is as long as I'm willing to show up and put in the work, although it might be really hard work and sometimes it's overwhelming, sometimes it just seems like so much, at least it's in your hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah, no, 1,000%. I was very uncomfortable with the waiting for a check. Cause even if you do have these relationships, you ain't gonna see that money right away. It's 30 days, 60 it's days, funny. 90 days. shout out to my admin Lauda, because if I do not respond to her invoice within an hour, I get the ping on Slack. Hey, submit the invoice. Hey, I'm like, well, I'm going to get to it today. I promise you. And also it takes my shit 60 days to come through. I'm telling these brands hey, tap.
Yes.
Where's my money? Anyway, I really hated that feeling. And because of that, I do pay very, very swiftly.
Yes.
Okay, Lauda. Okay, Amber, on social.
That is my rule. As a small business owner, when I navigate with contractors or small businesses, I don't play about their money, because I know 1 week, 2 weeks, what that can do to a business. And so I do not play it. And even I know you hear Mandi and I mean, if you haven't listened from the very beginning, you wouldn't know our humble beginnings of how, money was tight for a long time. Personally.
Humble beginning. I'm in the humble now. I'm trying to hang with you, Tiff, in your rich auntie lifestyle.
But even still, let me tell you about this.
The thing is, I've been getting the money while I've been having the children and the family, and it's where? I'm breaking my own. If you want to follow my advice to not have lifestyle inflation, don't have kids.
Oh.
You heard it from me first. I'm when am I ever gonna feel like I have money again?
You will. But I have to say, honestly, I live so far below my means. Like, so even when you see me pop out, like, oh my gosh, you bought a condo. Know that I live at one point, especially when I was like raking in the dough, I was living at 10% of what I was making. You know, and it was still good money, but meaning that I've always been conscious that, you know, if I make a tremendous amount of money, say like 7 figures in a year, I'm not going to live out half $500,000. I'm not, you know, because one, I think I can live a really great life at like, you know, one, two, Mandy and I, not that everyone has to do this. I'm big on like buying things in full. So I don't have to worry about a month to month to month, because I like to keep my month to month in a way that if everything goes wrong, I'm still okay. Even when I bought my condo, if y'all remember, like my financial advisor, Anjali, was like, well, it would be my advice that you get a mortgage. And because you're a high net worth individual, we could probably get you an interest rate, a special behind the scenes interest rate, which I was like, that seems unfair, but I'll take it. That like, you know, that like, you don't have to get a regular person's interest rate, that we can like negotiate with the bank, you know, for high net worth individuals to get you like a lower interest rate. And I told her, I said, honestly, I would prefer to buy the condo cash. And she's like, I knew you were going to say that. I said, now, knowing my financial picture, I know that the best solution is to get, you know, put a decent amount down and to mortgage it, and then to put that cash to work in the market. I know that that's the best solution. But is it a bad choice? Like, is it like really, really bad for my finances if I purchase it cash? Because there's two different things, you know? And she was like, well, it's not a bad financial choice. It's not going to harm you financially. Ideally, would love to put more money in the market for you, but you've already capped. Like, there's a certain amount every year that I want to put up in order to reach my financial goals. She's like, you've already done that. This would just be excess to that, and certainly this excess will likely grow faster than sitting in your house. But I know you, Tiffany. You like to keep your monthly expenses low, and sure enough, I'm so glad I did that in the beginning, because I bought the house very early on in the beginning of the year. And I'm so glad, because this was one of our toughest budget needs years yet, as far as like business. And so we didn't do nearly as well. I didn't make nearly as much. But the one thing I wasn't stressed about is my monthly expenses did not increase. So I wasn't like, oh, I got my new mortgage. They basically stayed the same, relatively speaking, like a few $100s here and there, you know, but basically stayed the same. And for me, the peace of mind of knowing that even if something, I knew we were going to have a rough year this year, I could feel it. Even when that happens, I had kind of like already, like the car I own is paid off. The home that I live in outside of the condo, the home that I live in currently, paid off. Like, my bills are such that I can manage on very relative little to what I make.
Tiffany, how do you, that's so unrelatable.
I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is, like, the pullback is this.
Can we get some?
So here's a relatability.
How do you, no, I'm curious, because like, for me, that's unrelatable at this point. And I'll admit it, I went to Tiffany. You love me no matter what, right?
Okay, yes. I thought you said you went to Tiffany's. I'm like, what'd you buy at Tiffany's?
My husband wishes. No, we literally, when I tell you, I don't know what, he has like disassociated from reality so hard. When we went to the mall this weekend just for something to do, or last week, he was like, let's go into the Rolex store. I was like, yeah, let's take our 2 kids and go in there and pretend like we can afford any of these college tuition, timepieces. And Rio was running around, and I was just like, yeah, you want to try one on? Hey, sir, can we try on your most expensive Rolex? I can't wait. Can my 3-year-old, do you have it in his? Enrique's like, never mind, get out. He was so mad. Anyway, but we went to Pottery Barn or one of these, I forget, Crate and Barrel. I want new bedding. I want my bed to look like a picture. Okay. My bed looks ratchet. Okay. Even when the cleaning ladies fix it, it looks ratchet. Okay. Because Molly has chewed through things. It doesn't look pretty like it used to anyway. And I was like, I want that picture. And I chose the bedding. I got everything. And I put it on Afterpay.
Okay.
But I chose the 3 payment option. Okay. So I would have 0 interest, because now Afterpay is like, oh, you want 6 to 12 month options? Well, we're going to charge you like extra fees, and you do end up paying more than it costs. But one thing I hate doing is paying more than something costs just to have more time to do it. So anyway, but that's my
No, I don't. And here's the thing.
That's my confession.
I learned early on that like whatever it took, I had to figure out a way. I wasn't always able to. I had to figure out a way to live under my means. That's how I got here. So like, was like, literally, I was living in a room. I was 30 something years old, and I was like living under my means meant renting a room. A bunch of my friends also have rented rooms in that same, and I was between the ages, I want to say 29 to 33. I did that. Most people are like, oh, I can never do that. And you might have kids, whatever, but I'm just saying that. And I remember I drove like the rattiest car, which I was like, I would likely walk more often. There were times when I did speaking engagements when I'm like, they wanted to like, park my car, and I was pretty certain it wouldn't turn back on.
I remember that car.
So I was like, that white car, oh my
You could hear it.
I mean, you really could. And there were times when I'm like, I'm just going to park down the street and walk up. And so I'm not saying, people are like, oh, I won't do that. I get it. But for me, it was like, I had to figure out two things: how to make extra income. I babysat, I tutor, I started the business, but whatever that kind of looked like. And then I really had to viciously cut back on my expenses to create space to then invest in my life. And so to me, the investment was in my business. Yours might be investing in the market. It might be investing in bonds. It might be, but that's really what it is. You have to create financial space. And in the beginning, you might not be able to do that. So you just try to create space so you can just pay your bills on time. I would say for the first 3 years, it was like, I just don't want to be in the negative, which I was. I mean, there's times when I was like, I just don't have it. There's just, my account just says negative, and I will call and cry on the phone and be like, well, what can I do? Like, that was life, for the longest. Like, this part of my life is the newest part of my life, but I only got here from a place, and I still use those same principles, which is I still live tremendously under what I make. And, but not from a place of like, I feel like I'm depriving myself. Y'all know I just came back from vacation. But even then I was like, can I use points? What are other ways to go about, Anjali tells me all the time, and I probably do, I underspend.
Yeah. So to be honest, and I've been wondering, like, I should just say it because I want to be transparent. And I was just talking to I posted about my 6-figure book deal. Cause it is. Okay. It's a fact. On IG, because I wanted to share, just like you have with me, been so generous with how it happens. Yes. I want to spread the message. Here's how you get a nonfiction book done. Here's how I did it, rather. So the focus wasn't on the headline. I did my journalist thing. Yes. I want to grab attention, get you to the caption, right? But in doing that, my husband, for example, doesn't really listen to the podcast because, he gets enough of me at home, and he told me, oh, my coworkers, they think we're rich or something, because they saw your post on IG. And I was like, wait.
Yeah.
First of all, no. Second of all, they don't understand book math and all this stuff. And they just read the headline and saw, and I never want to be putting up, don't Tiff, the minute you see me fronting and acting like I got when I don't. Because how much of that 6 figures is in my pocket right now?
Exactly. Because it pays out over a 2-year span.
0. Yes. I haven't even got the contract signed. I don't get my first check till then. Yep. And even then, it's like the cut there and the cut there and the agency and the taxes and all that. Anyway, but my reality is like, I haven't struggled to create income as a business owner. And to anyone who looks at me, and I know some Mandi Moneymakers have mentioned that, I have to remind them, yes, I started Mandi Moneymakers in 2021, but I had 8 years of Brown Ambition, 6 years, whatever it was before that. I had, a brand that I was building. I had like a foundation, a platform that you don't have when you just, like, if I had started a bakery, probably would have been tougher.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it was very aligned with what I've been doing so far. So I had given myself a head start there. But anyway, didn't have trouble creating income streams. Haven't gotten financially good at maintaining a budget on income that fluctuates. And I'll be the first to admit. So because of these things like, I'll get like a great deal, but you're not going to see that money for a few months. And I know I'm going to get the money and I'm not stressed, but then this bill and this tuition payment is due. And it's like, oh, well, this isn't comfortable. And it's so that I don't have enough. I don't have so much coming in that it saves me from those months where I'm like, we poor, but like we're not poor, but like we are, Well, and
because that's because you don't have a big enough pot. So it took me a few years to learn, like, that person is not paying me; they're paying the pot, and the pot pays me. And so it took me. Now, here's the thing: the pot can't pay you if it don't have anything in it. And so it took a while to kind of build up pot reserves. And to the point now where the pot pays me either way.
Yeah.
That takes, and that's okay because it takes time. So slowly but surely, as money comes in, you set a little bit aside for
I'm the only person on my payroll, and I missed payroll in August.
Sorry.
me keep it 100. Not only did I miss payroll, I didn't even realize I missed it. And then I got into this whole shenanigans with QuickBooks. They're like, we're going to close your account or your account's in collections, because they had paid me. They like fronted me the money for my own paycheck. That should have been, it was that I hadn't moved the money because I was on maternity leave and I hadn't moved money from savings to my, checking in my business, because I didn't have any checking over the summer because I didn't make no money. I was having a baby and not getting a paycheck. You guys want to know what entrepreneurship is? Is that? I know, yeah. And so I had it in savings. It wasn't in my checking account. Didn't realize that. I got the emails and I'm just reading the first line like, oh, money. Okay. Payroll, something, da, 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 da. Must be fine. And I just like go ahead, only to find out those emails were like collections emails because they want their money back because they gave me the money. And then what happened to your girl, Tiff? I've never felt so ashamed and broke, but like real talk. Just to balance the beautiful. And I'm not taking anything away from you. You deserve you there. I know. Okay. So let me tell this story without you thinking it's because I'm trying to like make you feel some type of way. You know that you're good. Okay. And we all love it. But I have 2 online only banks for my personal and for my business bank account. Online only. I love it. Why go to a bank? Who needs them? I don't even carry a wallet anymore. I got Apple Pay. I'm all, in the metaverse and all that kind of stuff. So QuickBooks wants their money. They decide they only want me to wire it. Only a bank wire. But I can't, but they won't accept a bank wire from an online only bank.
Are you kidding?
So no. So a long story short, somehow I get the wrong, bad intel from QuickBooks. I end up in my infinite wisdom thinking somehow that if I get the cash out of my business account, I can go to any bank and get a wire transfer. It's stupid. Don't listen to why the person was very persuasive and wrong. So but then there's a limit on how much cash you can take out of an ATM for your online only bank. And turns out mine was, 2,000 a day. And I needed like 4,000 or something like that. And not only that, but the ATM had a limit on how much you can withdraw at one time. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out like, can I do 500 at a time? So I'm at the ATM, like 500, insert your car, 500, beep, boop, boop, insert your card again. I'm just going to keep going. The Bluevine, my bank Bluevine is like, oh yeah, just keep going. I don't know. Maybe it's 500, maybe it's 600 is the limit. Just keep trying. I get the money out. I go to the bank. They're like, yeah, idiot. We can't wire transfer cash money. Like, you don't have an account. Like, who are you coming off the street with this money that probably came from, I don't know, something nefarious? So I go back to my car. And then I'm like, I have this money. How do I put it back in my online bank account? This is over 2 days of me going to the ATM because again, it was too much for one day, so I had to go back. So I'm like at the ATM, like, can I just, where's the hole to put it back in the internet?
Oh my God. Where's the internet hole?
And it turns out, you can go to our, call the bank. You can go to one of our fee-free, locations, where we accept cash deposits. Turns out Walmart is not within like a 50-mile radius of where I live. And the other ATMs like weren't working for deposit. And in the meantime, I go to even think I can deposit this cash at an ATM at my local CVS. And I'm like walking up to the ATM and looking at my wallet and I'm like, where's that debit card? Oh, I left it in the ATM at the bank.
Oh my God.
This is the shit I go through. Yeah, so when y'all think about, when you think about Mandi Money and her 6-figure book deal and the business that is thriving, and those things are true. But what's also true is I am a real person with the same expenses. And, and I do, like you said, I keep my lifestyle very reasonable, but the cost and the demand on the dollars is, at this point, I'm figuring out that balance and trying to like be always ready, and I'm not. And it's very uncomfortable. Yeah. I don't love it, but I also know this is the way through and I have to just like keep going. Oh, that was therapeutic.
No, that's good. And honestly, here you are seeing me at year 15. Yeah. Right? And it's really only been the last, I want to say 5 years that I'm like, oh, we're going to be okay. So think about 10 years of like what Mandi is describing. That's what it was like. Like I can remember Jarrell and I were living in the halfway hood. And
so I was like ripping my cuticles to shreds as I was telling that story. That's how the stress.
No, because it's normal entrepreneurship. We were living in the halfway hood. And by halfway hood, we were literally living in subsidized housing. because he worked for housing. And as a result, they wanted him to be quote unquote on campus. So, I mean, it was pretty, I think, you know, these were townhouses, but still, it's housing.
I've let your apartment. Yeah.
Yeah. But still, it's housing, right? And so our rent was only like $9.20 because he lived, you know, he worked where he lived. I can remember literally coming out the front door of housing and a young woman coming out and looking at me. And I look at her and she's looking at me. I look at her and she said, "Budgetnista?" with her confused. And I was like, "Hey," she said, "I just took your webinar." I was like, "Oh," so I'm trying to deflect because I know what she wants to ask, but I'm like, we're not gonna. I'm like, "That's okay. I hope you learn." And da-da-da. Okay, I gotta go. But then she's like, "Does she live in housing with me?" I do. And the truth of the matter is, it was. I'm saying it like, well, that's because Jarrell worked there. Now that's what we could afford too, child. Because before I moved in with Jarrell, I was paying $500 a month for a room. That's what I could afford. So I just share that like the road is not easy and it might not end in where I am now. Cause honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still very conscious that like the shit can fall through now too. I mean, certainly I've been like, if I'm being all the way candid, Mandi, for all the money that I have made in business, I don't have half of it left over, and not from misspending as like Tiffany, but I didn't know how to run business. I mean, I think certainly there was a lot of overpayment, you know, as far as employees were concerned. Just overspending on certain things like, you know, like marketing and but not getting the return. I mean, for all the money I've made, girl, I should literally be like 1% of the 1%. You know, I've made over $50 million in business. I don't have $20 million. I don't have $10 million. You know what I mean? I'm just like, for what I've made. And so sometimes there's like, you know, I don't want to say shame, but I'm like, damn.
Well, you're talking to your versions of Tiffany's who are like different or done something different or had guidance or been there longer. And it's like the comparison up.
Yes,
you know? Because
I'm just looking like, dang. I mean, I had a friend who in business made $40 million in business and over the last 2 or 3 years, and she has 20 of it. I was like, how? Do you know how like my heart was like, oh, that's so great for you. But I was like,
but the thing is, the tools that person used and a lot of us are using today didn't exist when you started, and you were building everything and you had your team and all this kind of stuff. So it's also like perspective.
Yes. No, I got to give myself the grace and space, but I'm sharing that like as good as it seems that I have done. When I tell you, I literally made so many tax errors. I want to say, especially when the business starts to take off, that
Tiff,
it cost girl. We're at about 7 figures of financial mistake. Like I probably had to pay out additional $1 million because of the tax error. Like literally for like almost 2 or 3 years straight. Every time I got a tax bill, on top of my regular taxes, I remember the last bill that I got, I just was like, at some point, something has to change. It was $250,000. And I was like, what can I do? I mean, because of
Tell me more, because that makes me feel better about my $7,000 IRS bill that I still don't know what the hell. I just took a screen. I was like, I can't process this right now. I'm going to take a picture and upload it to my accountant portal and let her figure it out and tell me later.
Thankfully, we had this awesome accountant, Angie, who used to work for the IRS, who after like all the mess, because I didn't really know how to hire, she was like, we have to unearth what's happening here. Because I was getting a bill, I felt like every month. And finally, she got through the IRS, was like, what's going on? Fix all the paperwork. And the IRS was like, yes, but it's been years, so you have to pay those back taxes on top of the fees on top of that. No, we won't waive them. And it was, when I tell you, it was, I mean, I've not added it up, but for as many 6-figure bills as I've gotten, if it's not at $1 million, it's not that far from it. Can you imagine? That's like that I've had to pay. And that's money from Tiffany. I'm not talking about, the business. No. Because I'm an S Corp. I know, look at Mandi's face like, I can't. Because I'm an S Corp. So it's passed through, meaning what that means is that, let's just say your business makes $100,000. I'm
an S Corp too.
Right? And so if your business makes $100,000 and then you spend 50 on running the business, the government says you have to pay taxes only on the 50 left over. Now, if you save some of that 50 in the business, let's just say you say, oh, I'm going to put 20 in my emergency account for business. The government says, I don't care. Mandi, you still owe taxes on the 50 not spent on business. And you might say, I'm going to put another 10,000 aside because I want to do a project later. The government says, I don't care. Any money not on an S Corp or LLC, any money not spent on the business for you, the person, you have to pay taxes on that money. And
why isn't daycare a business expense? How am I supposed to business if the kids are here? I can't business?
Girl.
There is no business if there's no childcare.
And so just imagine that $1 million, basically, over the last few years that I've had to pay. That's money that if I didn't have to pay that to the IRS for all these mistakes, would have landed into my account. So like, just like really like, hey, let that soak in. Right. And so
Biggie was right. More money, more power.
I mean, it's hard around here in these parts. It's just, I mean, I know it sounds like somewhat like unrelated, like, but it's just, me and Mandi are sharing this because it's just,
it feels good for one thing.
And plus I don't be know what I'm doing. I mean, I know
it's
it seems
too
like
stressful to pretend like I got it all fucking figured out.
Every day we be making it up. I don't know. When my team asks me, I'm like, girl, I don't know. I know just as much as you. And the only thing I do know is that through past experiences, it helps to help me make better decisions. Like, but I don't know. I've never been in this position. Like, how do you launch a workbook version of your book? I don't know. But I do know how to launch a book because I did that. And so I use some of those things and some of it is working and some of it's not. It's like being a parent. Every day is new. When Rio turns 5, you'll have never had a 5-year-old before. You're going to have to figure out what it's like to have a 5-year-old. And so when the baby is 2, you're like, okay, I've had a 2-year-old before, but I've never had a 2-year-old when I also had an older kid. So all you do is that you take your knowledge from the past.
A different example. I'm going to be stressed.
And then you do your best. And so I just
and then you try to look back on it without being too
hard on yourself. Yeah.
And also that goes for y'all too who are listening.
Yes.
Damn it. Because we're not perfect. And you don't sit there judging.
Yes.
It's easy to judge, but also I mean, we can be vulnerable with our audience. I feel like our audience gets it. But I get really worried when people come through Mandi Moneymakers and I found out they want to be a coach. And I'm like, did I make it seem too easy? Oh, God. It's not. I had a career for a long time for a reason. But you know what I realized? Brown Ambition, the thing that we made together, has become the consistent, beyond my course, one of the consistent income streams that I have. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm just like, more of those, please. But I'm a baby business, okay?
No, I mean, we gonna make it. And that's why we have this podcast and we share, and Mandi and I share with each other because I don't know all the things. There's times when I'm like, Mandi, because you've worked on the corporate side, what am I doing wrong here? She's literally done, like trainings for my employees because she has a set of knowledge and a skill set that I don't have. And so it's important as you are navigating, whether you work in corporate or whether you work, you have your own business or whatever, that you network. Issa Rae said it best. Everybody wants to network vertically. But Beyonce and Oprah are busy. Network horizontally. Like, hey, I know this thing, Mandi, but that thing can be exchanged. So that horizontal network is so critical. So you might be far ahead in one space, but there's another space. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And so
don't network with me about taxes. I'm still figuring that shit out.
Not me either. Shit. I think. Yeah. I haven't gotten a letter in a long time.
I don't think anyone has their taxes figured out. This country's messed up.
It is. So this has been a super long therapeutic episode. So we're going to say goodbye, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu.
We're going Julie Andrews with that. Okay. I felt like there was like, when the beat drops, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen, adieu.
But that's okay, because we're going to see you guys on Friday for BAQA, where if you have questions about business, career, personal finances, we are here as your 2 smart, cute brown girlfriends. We'll help you out there. But until then, I mean, honestly, we'd love your feedback. Like, I mean, tweet us, DM us on Instagram. Like, what are you struggling with? I would just love, even if you want to do like an anonymous, we might do that in like a BAQA. If sometimes you just want to be like, I need to tell somebody anonymously the struggle that I'm having, even if you're not wanting advice. We'd welcome that too. Sometimes we just need to say the thing out loud. Yes, exactly. So,
oh, jinx.
Oh, maybe that should be a segment of BAQA. Say it out loud.
A sex shift. Sorry, what?
No, I said a section of BAQA. Say it out loud.
Oh, not me scratching my itchy armpit because I got hot talking about my finances.
But for real, like BAQA may have like, you don't even want advice. You just want to say it out loud. Let's consider. Okay.
Dump your stuff on us. We're like a priest, but internet. Anyway, let the beat drop. Goodbye, Avena, vida zena do, ado, take you, remix.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. This is why I don't sing the songs.